Welcome, everyone. I hope your days are going well. We'll get started in just a moment. In the meantime, if you want to drop in the chat how your weather is today, maybe it might be actually fall where you are. Here in Southern California, it still feels, well, I guess it's maybe fall. It's only going to be like in the low 80s today. So, and then we will jump in just a moment. Alrighty. Well, welcome everybody. Today we're going to be walking through the various allocation options throughout Martus. So to begin, just to a little introduction. My name is Melissa Ravelis. I'm our manager of learning and development. And we also have Morgan Flick on our call, who is one of our stellar implementation consultants. We also have our chat enabled, so feel free to interact with us there in our chat. We would love to hear from you as you're seeing things that are cool or you're excited about. If you have questions about what we're talking about, definitely use the Q&A feature to ask any of those questions that helps us know that we don't miss them in the chat. And we do have support for closed captioning turned on, so feel free to use that. We also have a diverse group of Martus users, so we will talk about a couple things that are specific to the plus or higher levels today. So just want to throw that out there, and we'll talk about that when we get there. We will send out the video and PowerPoint for this post the webinar, so that will come out probably tomorrow or Thursday. You can be on the lookout for that. And let's talk a little bit about where we're going today. So we're going to talk a little bit about personnel allocations. So anytime we're allocating personnel dollars, that's usually where we want to do that from. Then we'll talk about our planner allocations, where we can create a planner budget ahead of time and actually allocate an entire worksheet's worth of dollars. Then we'll talk a little bit about reporting groups and global special purpose worksheets, which are other ways to allocate non-personnel dollars across the organization. So let's jump in here to Martus and we will talk all about our allocations. So if you haven't logged in to Martus this week, you may notice that it looks a lot different. Good news is nothing's really moved around on the screen. We just have become more consistent with our colors. So we've updated our color scheme, which I think makes Martus look really, really nice. So we are going to start today with personnel budgeting. So we are going to go into our personnel budgeting here. And remember that in our scenarios, we have various positions, and each position has what I think of as a home set of dimensions. So remember that depending on how your instance is set up in Martus, you may have different dimensions set up. But you can see here that each of our personnel positions here is set to various different dimensions. Now, personnel allows us to assign positions to more than one dimension, and it does that by using the allocations option. So we're going to go over to our allocations here, and I'm going to set our 2026 allocation as our default, and then I'm going to click edit. Now, normally you only want one allocation per year because you can only apply one allocation at a time to your personnel scenario. So every once in a while I'll come across a customer, Morgan, you may have too, where they've created multiple allocations, not realizing that what they really wanted was an allocation segment. Have you seen that?
Yes, many times.
So we want to make sure that we put everything into one allocation and not into multiple, because again, we can only apply one allocation container to the scenario at a time to post it into our budget. So here we have our allocation, and within the allocation we have different segments. Now I'm going to look here at Brandon's segment, and we're going to just talk through a little bit about what we're seeing here. So at the top, this is what we've named the segment. I like to name my segments based on how I'm filtering the segment so that it's very clear as I'm looking at things. We also have a start and end month that you can utilize at the top, and then we have the source quantity. So Morgan, what's another option that some people might put in the source quantity? This might be a tricky one.
You can also put in for FTEs.
Yes, you can put in FTEs. You can also put in dollar amounts. So you can put in like the entire salary if you wanted, and then allocate certain total dollars of that source quantity. So while most people are allocating by percentage, it would be possible to come in and look at the total for that salary and then allocate that way. One of the things that's always a good practice is to click on the scenario you want to see and click show matches. That's going to show you what dollars are in scope of this allocation segment. And the dollars that are in scope are based on how you're filtering here. So these are filters, and they're going to filter out various dollars from your scenario and allow you to allocate them across to other dimensions. All right. Well, we have here all of our matches, and we can change that. So we can allocate to certain pay types. For example, I could allocate just the salary matches, and then we're only allocating that. So sometimes that's something that is helpful when we're allocating. So I'm going to go ahead and hit save on this. We haven't really made any changes, and then we're going to add another segment here. So we will come in here and we will add, and let's allocate our whole department. So you can also allocate entire departments. This is a lesser used function, but we can allocate all of our facilities people, and we'll grab our base scenario and we can see that these are all the salaries across the whole facilities department and all of their other options here. And then down here, we can click on add new target to assign this to other worksheets for facilities. Now, in this budget, we only have facilities at general. So let's select that, but let's use a different project and we'll say 20% is there. And don't forget to come over here and hit the plus sign so that you actually save your line. Now, Morgan, what's going to happen to the other 80%?
The other 80% is going to stay in the employee's home location. So if we scroll up after we look at the employee, we can actually find their home location.
Yes, exactly. So Yep, exactly. So we have the 20% here. So the other 80% will stay there. So we can be done now. We don't have to allocate all 100% here in our personnel allocations. So now that we've done that, when we go back over to our scenarios and we go to our allocation analysis, we're going to be able to see how that is allocated across our dimensions here. So notice that now that we have that default allocation, that is automatically applied here. So this is something that's really nice because we don't have to remember to load it, but you can come down here and you can see all of the different people who are allocated, which is really just let's go back up because I know it was right here. So here's Brandon. He's the one that we allocated by person. And then one of the things we can do with this report is we can actually see it by dimension and hit load. And so now we can see all of the different individuals in each area. And if I go down to facilities here, you can see that we have the same 3 people allocated to 100 facilities with the 130 campaign and the 100 to 30 of the areas that they're allocated to. And we can see over here the different amounts of salary. Now notice that Taylor is 0.10 and 0.4, and that's just because Taylor has only a 0.5 full-time equivalent. So that is why we're seeing that lower amount for Taylor. But we're able to see exactly how many dollars are going to be allocated to different places. Now we can also see that when we on our summary tab. And this is another page where that allocation, the default allocation, is automatically applied, and we can see those allocation rates. So this is already going to have that applied, but if we want to see the allocation details here, you can click load and you can see the various location, department, project account, allocation segment. And this is where it's very helpful when we can see the allocation segment. So I'm going to filter on this to just Brandon, and notice that our net change is $0. We're going to hide this. I don't know if you knew that you could hide those filters on this page, Morgan, but you can, which is really nice to give us a little bit more room, because what this is showing us is the in and out that's happening for Brandon. And so this is just a really easy way way to see exactly what dollars are being removed from that home department and where they're being posted instead. All right. Morgan, anything else we should talk about with personnel allocations?
I think that the one thing that you highlighted that was very important is that drop down of making sure your allocations drop down is chosen. That's always important, just to make sure that the allocation that you want to see is correctly selected, because that's very important, because once you post this down to your budget, that is the allocation scenario that you were actually posting down to your budget. So I think that it was really important and really good that you highlighted on that.
Yes, that is something that will get you. And now it's a little bit easier with our default allocations, but it's still good to double check that that is true before you post out to your budget. Because yes, we will get a few support tickets each year about that, where it doesn't happen with the allocation and then things are all wonky in your budget. So, all right. So we are going to now move on to a feature that I don't think many of us are using, but I wanted to touch on it in today's webinar so that we could all understand it a little bit better. And that's a concept called a pre-allocation budget. Now, this is something that's available at the plus and higher level. And you'll notice that this is turned on in my system. So if you're going, well, I see the word plus or premium or in the top left of my system, and I don't see this option in my system, in my Martus instance, and that is probably very true because we try to keep Martus as uncluttered as possible for our users. And so if you're not using something, then if you're not using something, then it's easier to just hide it from you so that you're not seeing a lot of extra stuff in your instance. But here in our budget management here, I have this turned on, and you can tell it's turned on because it says pre-allocation default. You won't have that column if it's not turned on. And if you want to turn it on, you're at the plus or higher level, just send us support to get in. We're happy to turn that on. It just takes us a moment on the back end to do that. So to use a pre-allocation budget, I'm going to click on create budget here, and we will put in our name. And I just like to call this our pre-allocation budget because I don't like to make it too complicated. And we're going to do an empty budget. And when I choose empty here, Martus is going to allow me to use a pre-allocation budget. This is one of the few times where the empty budget option is helpful, right, Morgan? Otherwise, it's not usually very helpful unless you really want to start from scratch for some reason.
Yeah, 100%.
So, and that's because with our pre-allocation budget, we really want to only add the lines in the worksheets that we need to budget for. So, Morgan, do you have any use cases for this pre-allocation budget? Have you worked with any customers who are using it?
For my clients who really want to allocate GL accounts, this is a lot of the times the route that they go.
Yes.
Or if they want to allocate all of the GL accounts in one department, this is a route that they will go as well.
Yeah, exactly. So this is often a departmental type allocation, and it can be really helpful. So sometimes this may be something that we're allocating out if you have a dimension that is holding your grants, and that dimension is a sheet dimension, because this will only allocate out to other worksheets. So it's not going to allocate out to line dimensions, but only sheet dimensions. But it can be really helpful if you are somebody who has a lot of worksheets. Maybe you have worksheets by grant and you want to budget at that department level and then allocate out, or like a department wants to budget and then wants to allocate out to different locations. So that's kind of the use case we're going to use, because that's how this system is set up, with location and department as sheet dimensions. So we can see we have our pre-allocation budget. But the first thing I'm going to do is that our organization has said, hey, we want facilities to start budgeting, not just in general, but actually at the various locations that it's working at. So we want to budget at a total facilities level, but then we want to allocate some of those dollars out to other locations. So the first step here is to actually build those worksheets in our planner budget. So the planner budget is the budget that we are going to post to our accounting system. It's the budget we're going to report on. That's the budget that the pre-allocation budget is going to write to. So we're going to come in and we're going to grab our facilities. Where is it? What happened to, what is happening? All right, we're going to pretend we're using IT instead of facilities. I think maybe facilities got inactivated. So we'll use IT here. And we're going to add that worksheet. And remember, we're doing this in our primary planner budget because these are the various areas that we want to be able to post our budget to. So we'll do one more here where we're going to add all right. So now when I look at my planner budget, I have been told as the IT manager that I need to now budget to all of these IT worksheets. And so I can do that in one place using my pre-allocation budget. And then I can tell Martus to push those dollars out to those worksheets. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over, and this is something that admins will do for those who need to do it. They'll set up all the worksheets here and they'll come to the pre-allocation budget. And remember, this is an empty budget, so there's no worksheets here. I'm going to add a worksheet. And to make my filtering easier later on, I'm going to just choose the department here. And we'll see why in a minute. And I'm going to click on add worksheet. So now I have one worksheet in my allocation budget. Now, Morgan, do I need to add every worksheet that exists in my planner worksheet? My planner
You do
budget?
not.
Which worksheet should I add here?
It'll be the worksheet that you want to allocate to.
Yeah, exactly. So you just need to add the worksheets that you want to allocate. And if you have other worksheets that you're not allocating, don't add them here. You can just budget like normal in your planner budget. So if you come in to the budget management. Oh, we have our worksheet. So now what we're going to do is we're going to pretend we are that IT manager. So I'm going to come into my worksheets. Fun fact, Morgan, did you know that I once was an IT manager?
I did know that fun fact. I love that fun fact.
So it was okay, minus printers and the phone system. I'm not a huge fan of either of those things. So here I'm on my pre-allocation budget. I've loaded that, and here is my one worksheet. So I'm going to click on edit here. And notice that Martus automatically chose the top level here. That is blank. And so what that means is that if I look at my reference data, apparently I don't have anything in my 2025 budget either. So that's a bummer. But that's okay. Normally we would see those dollars across the organization, but that's okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to line actions and we're going to add a line into our budget. So, all right. So we're going to come in. This is IT. So let's see, software subscriptions, and we'll do our 999 here. And I'm going to add that line. And the good news is that just like any other budget in Martus, if you have a pre-allocation budget from last year, you can copy that into this year or next year, and you don't have to do this each time. It's just something that you do, once, and then you can use it over and over again. No big deal. All right, so we're just going to allocate you guys are hilarious with your printers and your comments. I love it. So here we have our telephone and telecom and software subscription lines, and these are the lines we're going to allocate out. So we're going to budget for them just like normal, and we're just going to use basic amounts so that it's really clear later on as we allocate. So we're just going to use $1,000 there, and we'll say we spend $5,000 a month on software subscriptions. All right, so now for the magic, Morgan, where do we go to actually tell Martus to allocate this?
So once you click on worksheet actions, you now have a button that says allocate worksheet.
Yes, and we have that because this is a pre-allocation budget. So at the very beginning, when we told Martus that it was a pre-allocation budget, that's what allows us to have this allocate worksheet option. So I'm going to click on that. And now we're going to be taken to a page that many of you may not have seen, or at least not seen recently. And here we can add a new target. Now, this is why I chose to leave my location blank, because Martus is going to filter all the worksheets by the dimensions you have in your target worksheet or your base worksheet. So if I had filled this in for 100 general, every time I came in here, I would have to take that out to see all of my IT worksheets. So I just did it simply and kept it so that I didn't have to do that each time. So I'm going to select IT here for general, and we're going to still put 40% there. We'll add another target. We'll put 30% there. Notice Martus is keeping a total here. We'll do 15% here. For Travis County, we will do another 15. Now, Morgan, is it important to get to 100 on this one?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Yes, it is. Because otherwise, you're going to have dollars that don't get out, that don't get posted into your planner budget. They will just be left hanging out, not doing anything. So, in this case, if you do want to budget the full amount in your planner budget, you do want to make sure that this gets to 100. So, unlike our personnel scenarios where our allocations didn't have to go to 100, this one does. So, I'm going to click save just so I don't lose my changes. And then we're going to go back in and we're going to go to our worksheet actions and allocate. And we're going to tell Martus to go allocate this. The other thing to note here is notice I put the full numbers in. Sometimes people will come here and they'll think that they need to put like the 4.3.15.15. That is literally allocating 1% of your budget, not 100. So you do want to put the full numbers in here, not those percentages. So now I'm going to hit the big blue button, which is our post to planner budget. And Martus is going to post these dollars out to our budget. So let's look at our task progress and just make sure that everything worked as expected. There we go. And it says our worksheet was allocated. So now if I go back to planner worksheets, we can come in and let's filter to our IT department and let's hop in, and you can see that because Shoreline and Travis were both 15%, they have the same amount. But let's go into our East Lake here and notice that in our budget, we have $300 and our $1,500. So that percentage of our budget, I think I put in, I don't remember what I put in, maybe 30%. So 30% of 1,000 is 100, 30% of 5,000 is 1,500. And so Martus pushed all of those dollars out to those different worksheets, which means that as I am posting my budget to actuals to the various locations that maybe are using those software subscriptions or things like that, as I'm allocating those actuals, now hopefully our budget to actuals across those locations will match up. And we'll be able to start understanding how much the various locations of our organization are using our IT, phone and intercom, telephone and telecom, and our software subscriptions. All right. So I don't see any questions about that. Morgan, do you have anything to add on that?
I know in the very beginning, Melissa mentioned that this is available to our Plus and Premium customers. By default, this is turned off for all of our clients. So if you would like this turned on, please let us know and we can turn that on for you.
Yes. Yes. So even if you just want to play with it for a little while, it can always be turned back off very simply, but it is a cool little feature. But just as Morgan said, it is off by default. We do talk about it at one of your trainings, but if you've been on Martus for a while, that may have been a while ago, or you just may have been hit with so much information at the beginning that it's hard to remember everything that is at the beginning. So now let's talk about, I think, Morgan, that as far as allocating dollars between personnel, planner allocations, and global special purpose worksheets, probably personnel and global special purpose worksheets are more utilized than the planner allocations. And that's really because with the planner allocations, one of the things that you may have noticed is that you can allocate as many different accounts as you want, but all of the accounts are going to be allocated at the same percentage. So for example, I can't allocate telephone and telecom at a different percentage than software subscriptions. They're both allocated at that same percentage to each of the worksheets. But with a global special purpose worksheet, I can choose which accounts to allocate, and I can then allocate them on whatever percentage we want. So we have a couple things we want to talk through with our global special purpose worksheets. The first is that we can use calculations and we can use a concept we call reporting groups. So in my mind, Morgan, reporting groups are like a random basket that is just collecting various lines of my budget, depending on what numbers I want to look at. Do you have a different way you think of them as, or do you think of them similarly?
That's so funny. That's a really good analogy. It's funny because I see it almost in the same way, but I basically see it as like if Excel had like 12 columns and you needed to apply filter to 3 of the columns to 3 random areas, reporting groups is effectively allowing you to do the same thing. But I like your analogy as well. That's really cute.
Yes. So essentially, Anything, and people will always ask, well, do I have to grab dimensions or do I have to grab accounts? And Morgan, what is the answer to that answer with reporting groups?
With reporting groups, you can do either
Or both.
or
Yes.
both.
Anything you want. So it really is just gathering whatever data you want. So you can see in my system here, I have reporting groups. And again, this is at the plus or premium level. And honestly, if you are at standard or essentials, this reporting groups is one of the more powerful things in Martus because you can use reporting groups in both special purpose worksheets, as we're going to talk about today, but then you can also use them in Report Builder, and now all of our standard reports you can filter. So I actually just built a reporting group for somebody yesterday, Morgan, that they were just going to use with their standard reports. It was kind of fun.
I love that.
All right, so let's take a look at some of these options here. So let's talk about utilities. So here is our facilities department and our utilities account. Although, didn't we decide that facilities wasn't showing up, or am I just crazy? So let's look at a different one or make one here. So let's pretend like we want to allocate our IT costs using our special purpose worksheets rather than our pre-allocation budget. So the way we would do that is we would first add a reporting group, and we can add a reporting group for software subscriptions, and we're going to click save. And I'm just going to pull in my 100 general and my IT department, and my account is going to be software subscriptions, and my project is going to be 99. All right. So we're going to click on add here. And now what I like to do is click down here to show matches, because this way I can make sure that there is a budget line that is showing me this amount. So here is our line. Now we can also go look at that line in our planner worksheets, and we will go into our general IT worksheet here. Now, one of the other things to be aware of is that with the pre-allocation budgets, while it wrote out to my software subscriptions, notice that I can override it as the user. So I can actually make this different than what it is in our pre-allocation budget. So the pre-allocation budget does not lock the lines that it writes to. So that's just something to be aware of here. So we just came over here to see that it is $2,000 a month. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go over to our special purpose worksheets, and we are going to create a global special purpose worksheet. And I'm going to come down here and click on add new global, and we're going to call this software subscriptions, and we can create new, and then we can add a line. So our first line we're going to add is to pull in our total software cost, and we're going to just call this total software. And then over in my values, I could budget here. I could just put in that $2,000 a month. But what's cool about reporting groups and special purpose worksheets is that if I choose the reporting group here, choose my software subscriptions line, and click preview, Martus is going to pull that dollar amount in. So it allows my IT budget manager to budget as he normally would, and then maybe either him or somebody else on the team who may be allocating things. A lot of times people will use this for like rent expense or certain headcount expenses, and they'll pull that in, and then we will have that here in our budget. All right, so now I'm going to add another line, and we will say that this is the software cost that is going to go out to our counseling department. So this is going to be the percent that we are going to push to our counseling department. Now we have time, so let's actually make this even more fun here. So I'm going to come over to our values and just do 0.2 for now, but let's do this. Let's go in and let's jump over to our counseling worksheets, because Morgan, did you know that at the plus level, and if you have an integration that allows it, which you can ask Marty here, if you just ask him, hey, does my Intact QuickBooks support statistical accounts? Because if it does, what you can do is you can come into your use counseling services here, and you can come into your stats. I was hoping for just a head count. All right, we don't have, let's pretend it is clinicians. We'll use that. So we're going to budget here for clinicians. Oh, that one's inactive, so we're not going to budget for that one. Okay, we're just going to pretend that the square footage is people, and that's all right. We're going to say we have 2 people in our counseling department, and then we could come over to food service and do the same thing. And fun fact, personnel can actually write to a statistical account if you had a pay type for that. So if this is something that would serve your organization, definitely jump on a call with us, reach out to support. We can help you get all this set up so that you can use it. But we're just going to pretend we only have staff in our food service and counseling. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go grab reporting groups for that. And we will add a counseling people, and we're going to say it's stats. And then our account here is our square footage for our counseling department. And then we're going to hit save on that, and we're going to add another one for food service. We're going to do the same thing, but we're going to choose our food service. And then those 2 are filtered to departments, but now we're going to grab just a total head count. Again, this is going to be stats. All right. And we're going to pull in just our square footage occupied. All right. So now what we can do is we can go into our special purpose worksheet, and we're going to go into our software subscriptions, because now in our totals here, let's click on this and change this, and we'll just call this totals. We can actually add the total head count from that personnel. So we're going to change the description here to head count. And in our values, we are going to change this to a reporting group, and we are going to grab our total head count. And there's those 5 people we did. So now for my percent here, let's change this, and we're going to call this counseling head count. And we're going to come over to our values, and we're going to use a reporting group and do counseling people. There's our 2 people. And so now we can do math. All right. So y'all might need to help me with the math here, Morgan, because sometimes my math doesn't work well. So we're going to do counseling total, and we're going to post this out to our budget worksheet. So we're going to do 100 counseling, and we're going to do software and our 999 project. And then over here in my values, we are going to do a formula. So the first thing we're going to do is we are going to divide our counseling headcount by our total software, right? And then we're going to multiply that by our total software cost. No, we don't want the total software. We want the total headcount here. See, Morgan, mathing is hard. Okay, we want the total headcount, right? Okay, so we're going to hit preview, and let's just take this out for a minute and make sure we did the right math before. So yes, 40% is right. That's 2 out of 5 is 40. So now we can multiply that by our total software cost, and we get 8,000. Now I'm going to copy the whole thing, because what we're going to do next is I'm going to hit save. Because if we leave it like this, what we're going to end up doing is we're going to post the $200,000 in our total software, and we also are going to be posting it out to our counseling. So we need to charge that money back as a credit to our software line. So I'm going to copy this, and then what we're going to do here is we're going to come over to our values, and we're going to do the same formula, but we're going to multiply it by -1 to make it a negative amount. And then we need to actually come back over here, and we're going to post it back to our 100 2T. Same account, but we're going to post it back to our 998 project for shared. And we're going to hit save. Oops, I forgot to change the total of it, and we'll hit save. All right. So now you can see here that the total net change to our budget is $0. Because we don't actually want to change the overall budget in this case. We're just allocating dollars out to other areas. And remember, whenever you're doing that, you don't actually want to change the totals, because that would be all sorts of upside down in our budgets. But here we can see that we are doing that $800 and -800. All right, Morgan, that was a lot. Questions on that? Yes, and Caitlin just responded and said, checking to make sure net change is 0 is a great idea. So if that's how you're doing it, especially if you're doing reporting groups, you do want to make sure that that net change is 0. Now, I do have some customers who won't worry about the chargeback, or they won't necessarily pull in the reporting group. They will just budget directly in the Global Special Purpose Worksheet. and that's fine too, and they can allocate that. So you don't have to pull in the numbers with a reporting group. You can just always enter them and do all sorts of math here. But it is sometimes really nice to be able to. The benefit of doing it this way, that when I come back over to my worksheets and you are coming in to our IT department and the IT guy comes, maybe this is next year, maybe this is this year, and he goes, oh, I totally forgot to include one of my software subscriptions in this. And he comes in and he goes, okay, well, now it's going to really be $3,000 a month, and hit save. All that I need to do for my special purpose worksheet now is come down, and it still says $2,000 because remember, most things in Martus are a push and pull. I'm going to click on update reporting group values. That's going to pull in what's true of my budget. And now at the top, notice that our dollars are 3,000. Now that would be the same for any of our head counts that we're pulling in. And so pulling in those reporting groups, while it adds a lot more lines sometimes to your worksheet, it does make it so that it's really easy as you are updating throughout your budget that your special purpose worksheets will just flow through after. Now, I will say that this is a lot, and I always tell when I'm working with clients, like, when you get to the point where you want to walk through this and you have a specific scenario, let us know on support. I know that for most of our consultants, we would love to get on a call and walk you through the first one, spend 30 minutes. And once you're in kind of your system, your data, it will often start clicking. So even if you just come away from here knowing, hey, I could allocate my dollars this way, that is a win for us. And when you are getting ready to budget again and maybe want to try one of these, just reach out and let us know as part of your budget refresher. We can definitely help you set up the first couple lines, and that will usually get you started. All right. Now, Morgan, there's one other thing that I should probably do here that I haven't done, which is what?
Post to worksheets button.
Yes, exactly. So at this point, nothing in our worksheet has actually changed. So we want to click on our post to worksheets button. And that will actually update our 100 general counseling and our 100 general software subscriptions with these dollar amounts. So it will post those out. Now, one of the things and one of the reasons why I will often tend to lean towards a global special purpose worksheet, especially if it's something that like the central like accounting or other people want to really control and push out to worksheets. One of the reasons why I may choose our global special purpose worksheets rather than that pre-allocation budget is because when we do it this way, and I go into my general counseling, the line that we posted to here, nope, not membership fees. Let's keep going. Hold on, we're going to get there, I promise. Let's keep going. Come on, scrolling. You can do it. There it is. Our software subscription. Notice when I hover over this, it's going to tell me this is a global SPW. Now, as somebody who's just managing 100 general counseling services, like maybe I'm the counseling director, I most likely will not have access to this global special purpose worksheet because one, I would need a special security permission to see global special purpose worksheets. And then even if I have that, what needs to be true of the global special purpose worksheet, Morgan, for me to be able to see it?
You as a user have to have access to global special purpose worksheets.
And what else? Do you know? I feel like I'm giving you a pop quiz. I'm sorry. You also have to have access to every dimension used in that global special purpose worksheet. So if like our counseling person doesn't have access to IT because there's an IT line in that global, they're not going to be able to see it. So it really does lock down kind of those allocation dollars into something that is just used by kind of somebody at the central level who's allocating costs. A lot of times rent allocations, there's central costs that are allocated out and are kind of absorbed into various budget worksheets. This really lends itself well towards. And all of your global SPWs, just like your pre-allocation budgets, would be able to be rolled through from year to year. So you don't have to recreate the wheel each year. All right, Morgan, that was a lot. Let's talk a little bit about what's coming up next because my brain is full now and I just did the talking. So we do have a webinar coming up, which is our Watch Me Work webinar. That will be happening on September 30th. We also have coming up, or it's not on here, although I need to get it on there for this afternoon. What's new in Martus and how it helps you, November 11th. So that will be sent out very soon, but you got a little time before that. And that's just kind of our roundup of all the new things. Martus in the last 6 months or so since the last time we did a What's New in Martus. So one thing to note about the Martus Basics for end users, it's great to come to, especially if you're planning on training your new users soon, just to kind of learn what we like to talk about. It's also specifically designed for those non-admin users at your organization. So if you want them to come, though, you do need to tell them about it, forward them the link to it, as we don't communicate directly with them and they don't see that on their welcome screen. So if you want your end users to come, just let them know about it so that they can get themselves registered and come to that Watch Me Work where we just walk through all the basics of budgeting in Martus. All right, Morgan, anything else today?
I think that's everything.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us. Again, we will send out the recording probably tomorrow or Thursday, and you can look for that. And we also post those on our knowledge base, so you can always check out recent webinars there as well. All right, everybody, have a great day, and we hope to see you next week.